What if the greatest library ever built had never burned to the ground? In the 3rd century BC, in the coastal city of Alexandria, Egypt, scholars from across the known world gathered under one roof. The Library of Alexandria wasn't just a building. It was humanity's first attempt to collect all knowledge in one place. Manuscripts on mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and philosophy filled its halls. Some historians believe it held over 400,000 scrolls, painstakingly copied and collected from every corner of the ancient world. Scholars here didn't just read. They studied the stars, mapped the human body, calculated the size of the Earth itself with startling accuracy for their time. One librarian even estimated the Earth's circumference using nothing but shadows and simple geometry, arriving at a figure remarkably close to what we know today. But sometime between the 1st century BC and the 4th century AD, fire, or perhaps a series of fires, destroyed this irreplaceable collection. Centuries of human thought, gone in smoke. Entire fields of study, entire lifetimes of careful observation, reduced to ash in a matter of hours. But what if it hadn't happened? What if the library had survived, protected, and expanded for 2,000 more years? Imagine guards posted at its doors, not to keep people out, but to keep the flames away. Imagine scholars continuing their work, undisturbed, generation after generation, each building upon the last without ever losing what came before. As decades passed, the library wouldn't just survive, it would grow. New wings would be added to house the ever-expanding collection. New scholars would arrive from every corner of the known world, drawn by its reputation as the greatest center of learning humanity had ever built. The collection of knowledge would multiply, not just in size, but in depth and sophistication. Inside these walls, breakthroughs that took humanity another 1,000 years to rediscover might have happened centuries earlier. Early mechanical devices, refined far beyond their historical counterparts. Instruments for studying the night sky, growing more precise with each generation of astronomers who inherited and improved them. The seeds of a printing process, allowing ideas to spread faster and further than ever imagined possible. And these ideas wouldn't stay in Alexandria, they would travel, carried by merchants, by traveling scholars, along trade routes stretching across the ancient world. From the Mediterranean to distant lands few had ever reached. Each city that received this knowledge would grow a little faster, advance a little sooner, building on foundations laid centuries before their own scholars were even born. Medicine might have progressed for centuries longer than it did, saving countless lives that history instead lost to ignorance. Engineers might have built machines we associate with a much later age, powered by principles discovered far ahead of their time. Astronomers might have mapped the heavens with instruments and precision that wouldn't otherwise exist for another millennium. Trade would flourish alongside knowledge. Better ships guided by more advanced navigation techniques would connect distant lands that in our history remained isolated from one another for centuries. New routes would open across oceans once considered impassable. Goods, ideas, and discoveries would flow freely between civilizations that, in our real history, barely knew of each other's existence. Generations of thinkers would build on the work of those before them, not starting from scratch after knowledge was lost, but continuing an unbroken chain of understanding stretching back to the library's founding centuries earlier. The library itself would become something greater than a building. It would become a symbol, proof that different cultures, different beliefs, and different peoples could gather around a shared pursuit of understanding, setting aside their differences in service of something larger than themselves. Now let's return to our own timeline, the one we actually live in. Our modern cities, our universities, our research centers, they all exist because knowledge, despite everything, still found ways to survive and rebuild across the centuries. But it took far longer than it might have. Entire fields of study had to be reconstructed, sometimes centuries after they were first discovered, then lost, then painstakingly rediscovered by later generations working with only fragments of what once existed. What would our world look like today if that continuity had never been broken? Would we already be exploring other planets? Would diseases we still struggle with today have been cured centuries ago? Would entire wars have been avoided had knowledge and understanding spread faster than conflict and misunderstanding? We'll never know for certain. What we do know is this: what was lost in that fire wasn't just scrolls and manuscripts, it was momentum. It was continuity. It was centuries of accumulated human effort that had to be painstakingly rebuilt, piece by piece, by later generations who had no idea what had come before them or how much further along they might have been. And yet, in a way, the spirit of that library never truly died. Every university, every museum, every research institution that exists today carries forward the same idea the Library of Alexandria first attempted: gathering human knowledge in one place, protecting it carefully, and passing it forward to those who come next. Every book handed from an older generation to a younger one. Every digital archive preserving today's discoveries for tomorrow's scholars. Every screen glowing with information now accessible to anyone, anywhere in the world. These are all echoes of that same ancient flame, first lit in Alexandria. Knowledge, once written down, was always meant to be fragile. A single fire, a single disaster, a single act of carelessness could erase centuries of accumulated effort in moments. And yet, humanity kept trying, kept rebuilding, kept lighting that flame again and again, refusing to let it go out completely, no matter how many times it flickered. Today, we carry that responsibility forward. Every archive we protect, every idea we freely share, every piece of knowledge we choose to preserve rather than let fade into obscurity. It's a direct continuation of what began in Alexandria over 2,000 years ago. Because in the end, the real story was never just about one library. It was about humanity's endless, ongoing attempt to hold on to what it learns, to pass it forward to those who follow, and to make absolutely sure that no flame of knowledge is ever truly lost again.